All right, now we move on to our next session, presented by Tableau, called Sustainable Analytics with Lennart Heuckendorf, Solution Engineers at Tableau. So, Lennart, the stage is yours.
All right, hello. And thank you so much for being here. So, my name is Lennart, and this is a coming-of-age story. Because about a year ago, close to a year ago, actually my first baby girl was born, and with that was also born the idea to kind of, create a better world for her in my little things that I have actually can anything do with that. So, how can I actually create a world where she can thrive in, where she can live in, can grow up, love, hate, get children of her own, or actually thrive in a working environment that treats everyone equally? So what can I basically do with that? So I work at Tableau. We are, data is at our heart by everything that we are doing. So the first thing that came to my mind, and probably the easiest thing, at least that's what I was thinking, was, hey, energy consumption is something that I want to thrive in, and I can do better, and I can find the one light bulb that does all of my energy consumption and saves me so much money, makes the world a better place, greener, everything. That was the assumption, and the reality is super different. Because I took then some research, so you should get that data quite easily, shouldn't you? Well, I'm renting my flat, so basically I cannot put any appliances into any lamps or power sockets. Right, that doesn't work. I need to ask somebody. I need an electrician in order to do that. It's just not scalable or feasible at all. But then there are these connectors, right? And you probably have them for all your IoT devices at your home, and how to turn it on and off, and tell Alexa or anyone else what to do at your home. But basically, these things cost 15 to 50 euro per connector. My home office alone has like 10 appliances and 10 power sockets. So as well, putting them into every power socket in my apartment is also just not feasible. So what did I do to be feasible in any way? Just bought 3 of them, and I put them on all the appliances and switched them around in every week, and then I gather all the data quite manually with my phone because it was via Bluetooth, get the data, upload that to Google Drive. I had to go into each and every file because they were super messy. I had some ETL flows running in order to get the data running, and then finally, after loads of work, I was actually able to get some data and to look at that. This was all the aggregated data for each and every month, and I was starting, when my baby girl was born, till like May. And you can see quite my energy consumption going higher in the winter months. It's not something that is just quite normal. I actually get data from my energy provider for the whole year of 2021. And there we consume 2,200 kilowatt hours within my apartment, within me, my wife, and the little child for half of that. In 2022, so just from January to May, we consume 2,300 kilowatt hours. So it's maybe giving you a little bit of impression how life without baby and with baby is changing my energy bill. But this data is way too aggregated. I cannot learn anything from that. So basically, I'm going down to 2 appliances, which are taking up 10 to 25% of my energy bill, depending on the month. And this is my personal PC and my washing machine. So the top line, the blue one, is my personal PC. And in the first month of my baby's life, there was not that much to do for me, except for getting food and me making sure everyone is fed. That was basically the extent of what I was able to do, or allowed to do, rather. So basically, that is the time that I call the Dark Souls time. If anyone can relate, I was just playing lots of video games, so that's why the energy consumption of my PC was quite running high. Until January, when you see a big spike, I upgraded my hardware. It's quite logically that when you upgrade hardware, it consumes more energy. I didn't think about that. I just thought, what's going on here? I want to have new hardware, better graphics, whatnot. That it actually doubles my energy bill from the PC alone didn't really come to my mind. But that was actually the peak of my esports career, and from there on, the only playtime that actually got higher was the time with my baby girl. On the other line, so the gray line, right, that is my dishwasher, not dishwasher, the washing machine. And also, it starts quite low, because I didn't know how to use it. In that time, I became a washing machine hero, to be fair. So I know everything. I know everything that needs to be done. But what we're using are cloth diapers. So we're using cloth diapers because they're good for the environment. You're not throwing them away. They're not producing waste or anything, right? So I was thinking they must be great. But basically what it means is that our washing machine is running two times a day just for diapers. 2 times a day. So when then put that into relation, having all the water and energy consumption by all the washing machine runs, and on the other side, oil-based throwaway diapers, I don't know what's worse or better. I don't know. Somebody has to do the calculation. I was just thinking, because, well, marketing and stuff, that these closed diapers, super expensive, they will do their job, from greener perspective. We actually pivoted into a hybrid model. So cloth diapers during the day, and when we go outdoors or nights, then it's going to be non-oil-based throwaway diapers. And you can see, it did its job. Also here, the energy consumption is going down and down. And you could now argue, well, that's great, right? Job done. High five. We did it. We had our energy consumption reduced. Awesome stuff. But to be fair, I'm only looking now at that data. I didn't look at that at the time. I didn't look at the peak in January, oh my God, what am I going to do with my energy consumption? I need to change something. Not at all. These are just circumstances, things that life throws at you, things we need to adapt. We are not trying to make a more sustainable life, we're just trying to survive the first month of parenthood. Right? So this is basically the result. It's just out of luck. And what we basically did was the first kind of carbon accounting. So we basically did the scope 2 of carbon accounting. If you're trying to do carbon accounting for yourself, or more often or not, you do that on a company perspective, there are 3 different scopes. First scope being everything that you own. So from a personal perspective, usually that is, for example, your car. And the emissions that your car is producing while you are driving with your car. There are way more examples for that, but they are all quite hard to calculate. And I don't use a car, so scope 1, I don't really care. It must be very little. I don't know. Scope 2, we just did that. That's the energy consumption, at least the energy that you're buying. And then there's scope 3, and that's basically everything else. So when I was buying my new PC, in scope 3 would be all the emissions that went into production of the PC. And when I'm eating, these are the emissions in scope 3 that are produced or that are getting emissioned when producing the food or anything else, basically. And it is very hard to make data-driven decisions based on the carbon footprint of a product, because most of the time you just don't know. You maybe know, also because of marketing, that maybe a plant-based diet is healthier and greener than a meat-based diet or anything like that. But it's not like you can go into any store and see the carbon footprint of a specific product and make your buying decision because of that. That is a communication problem. When we're talking about communication and talking about then putting all of what we just heard on a company perspective and using Salesforce as the mother company of Tableau, and therefore also their core values, sustainability is the newest core value for Salesforce. And Salesforce basically achieved in 2021 net zero, which is a great achievement. But you could also ask, well, it's a technology company. What is actually there to be accounted for? Right? It's the offices that we have, it's energy that is getting used, it's quite a lot of business travel. Right? So maybe it's not that surprising that in 2021, where basically there's no business travel going on, you're actually achieving net zero when nobody's flying. So in the end, you could say, from a Salesforce perspective, great stuff, but also not the biggest achievement that you could ever make, because it's only a teardrop on a hot stone if you compare that to any manufacturing company, to any producing company. But also these companies, as well as we, but also these companies, they have to do their carbon accounting in different scopes. Here being scope 1, everything they own, right? And everything they are, during the production of whatever they're doing, the emissions that are getting spit out there. And that is basically what most of them already have, because lots of these things already have to be communicated to regulators. There's a great data set from the European Environmental Agency where you can basically see each and every factory throughout Europe and their pollution of soil, air, and water. So that is scope 1 being quite the easy one. Scope 2, energy consumption, also for a company which is owning the hardware, probably super easy because basically you just ask your hardware supplier, ask Bosch, ask Siemens, just ask them, can you give me the data for that? And probably they can because you're a company and not just renting nobody like me. So way easier for a company to do scope 2 as well. But the actual problem lies in scope 3 because this is where probably the most amount of your emissions is coming from, but also where the biggest oversight is. Because in scope 3, there's basically everything you are buying, just like my PC that I was buying, everything you're buying to do your line of business. Everything from transportation to distribution, commuting of your employees, and again, business travel. Everything basically that you do not own or produce yourself is in the scope 3. And this also brings up with it the problem that you don't really know anything about everything that's going on in scope 3, and you are not the one actually providing the data or owning the data. It is your partners, suppliers, employees who are owning that data. And that brings us to the actual problem that companies don't like to share their data. I'm working at Tableau. Data is at the core of everything we do. We are building a data visualization software, visual self-service analytics, and basically I don't know what my customers are actually doing with our software because 99% of our customers will never tell us because we are the front end to what nowadays is their holy grail, is their data. And that's why we kind of have the problem if we are not sharing that data, then nobody can actually do their proper carbon accounting, and then we all don't know which products to buy. So how can we actually circumvent that? What could be a solution for that? And it's basically more or less about, we have all the technology available, it's more about communicating. And there's something called Net Zero Cloud, that is a product from Salesforce, which is basically built on all the different things that Salesforce is actually building and owning and why they are so successful. And on top of that, there's Net Zero Cloud, which basically allows you to communicate with your customers, auditors, investors, suppliers, providing them data visualization, carbon accounting, and then taking some climate action on top of that. But not going to bore you with any architectural slide, let's rather go into some examples. Because, as I said, we need data, right? And technically, that is super easy. There are APIs, there are pre-built connectors. You can just connect Concur, for example, so when your employees are doing business travels and booking that through Concur, that can just feed into Net Zero Cloud. If that's not feasible, you can just upload CSV file, type it in on your own. There's OCR for your energy bill you can just put in, and it gets automatically read out. That is the easy part, technically. But how do you get your suppliers to actually give you that data? What Salesforce did is they put into the contract with suppliers and contractors that both parties are agreeing to comply and work against the Paris Agreement. So therefore, you can basically track but also do actions on if in a company or if one of both parties isn't really working towards that goal. And there are other companies out there, maybe if we were at the keynote, which have way more market power and way more power over their suppliers, which could put some of these things in quite easily with their suppliers or basically force their suppliers to do that. If we have done that, right? If we have a common understanding that we want to share data with each other, then you want to make it as easy as possible, as convenient as possible for your supplier, for your partners to actually give you that data. Automate everything. Please no CSV via email. Right? There are so many other ways to get that data, to put targets, to put reminders on top of that. Right? So many more efficient ways. Make it as convenient as possible so they hit their deadlines and they enjoy, in any way possible, the act of sharing data don't really know how that is going to work, that they actually enjoy it, but it would be a great thing. And if you've done that, then here's an example. So for example, one German football club, they are sending out text messages with surveys, with links to surveys, to the fans that were at the stadium, asking them how did they commute to the stadium and from the stadium. And the idea is, on the one side, to get an indication about their carbon footprint, about the fans that are coming to the stadium. Are they using the car or using public transportation? And the second question is, how can we maybe get more people away from driving by cars here and using more public transportation? Another way to incentivize suppliers to actually give you the data is to hand them back actually their carbon accounting. Because it is a quite complex process. You have so many different data sources to actually do that, so many different files and data is coming from so many different sources. It is quite hard for just any company to do and put actually everything together into a proper carbon accounting. So what you can do, since you own the software, right? Since you are using that, you can basically say, hey, you give me your data, and I feed you back, everything you need to know, all within a comprised visualization, dashboards, all of that stuff. So just give me data, everything else I will take care of and feed that back to you. You can set targets, and if these targets aren't hit, are a miss, data is not fast enough being communicated, right? Then you also can ask just Einstein, what would be the next best action to do here? And one of the examples could be that you may be sending to suppliers' employees to trailhead courses where they can learn how to make better or greener, not all times better, but greener choices. These ideas and examples, but in the end, what can actually Tableau do on top of that? So we take the E in ESG, so the environmental part that we're getting from the net zero cloud. Wherever you have your social data or your governance data, we don't really care as Tableau. We just connect to databases, whatnot, and put all of that together into a specific comprised view. That is all up to you. But there are also dashboards already pre-built available that you just can connect to data. There won't be everything in there because probably you don't have everything gathered already. But it's a first start to have an interactive experience that you can then iterate on. But I think the most important part is here the third pillar, which is about the external communication. The press release from Salesforce when they hit net zero actually had this dashboard within the release. And it's an interactive dashboard. You can experience that. You can click through there, experience how and with which actions Salesforce actually achieved net zero. But the more important part is you can communicate with that. So you can use it for investor relations. That's probably from a company perspective, more important part. From my perspective, the boring part. But rather use it, for example, for marketing, right? Use it to inform me about, how are you doing as a company, and maybe also how you are doing for each specific product that you are selling. And I need data in order to make greener, better decisions. I need data to choose what will be my first car or what will be my baby girl's first shoes. And companies need data in order to meet regulation, do their carbon accounting, or just get me or you as a customer. But all of that needs data and a data culture within the companies. And if you want to know more about that, there's a Tableau and Datarama masterclass later today. But especially, there's a session tomorrow, exactly here, in 20 minutes from now, which is talking about the data-driven organizations and data culture within that and how to actually achieve that by my dear friend, Nicholas. Also, any questions, anything, just come to our booth that's somewhere right beneath you. You will find us, I guess. And with that, I hope you have a great day. I hope you enjoy what you learned today and what you will learn tomorrow and all the great ideas that we're trying to give you and you will get today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lennart. I think we still have time for maybe one or two questions if anybody wants to take the opportunity. We have a mic now. I can bring it to you. You?
Can you give a little outlook on what's next? So Tableau's job is done when the analytics are handed over, or do you have any APIs? So you can compare different suppliers with each other, or give you a feeling about how intensive the process itself is, because maybe a specific process is emission intensive, but in itself it is not possible to optimize this process. So even if it's emission heavy, it doesn't mean it's bad, but it's just the process itself.
Just like my PC, it's taking loads of energy, but maybe I use that for a certain thing. But that's totally right. I mean, we can just communicate, make it visible, make it, put analytics on top of that, so people can, find out what is behind the data and maybe see that for the first time. But driving the action is basically, most of the time, in the hands of the experts. What we're just trying to do is actually giving a tool into the hands of the experts, which haven't done anything in informatics, which don't know how to write SQL code, anything like that, so they can explore the data and take the action from there. I mean, there are also then things to automate, right? So if you are in a SaaS world, right, everything can be actually done via APIs and links and URLs. So you would be able to, hey, that is an outlier, let's go somewhere else into a different system, explore it over there, and all of these interactions are possible. But basically, the most important part is the human in the end to find out, well, is that all right or not?
Lennart, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope some of us can at least attend your next session and ask all the questions that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.